And just like that, we're halfway through the Six Nations. We're into the down week where we have some URC fixtures. I'll be doing a little preview on that. Also, I'll have to talk about that incredible Ireland win against England. But up first, Leinster had some media today. Up was Leo Cullen and Scott Penny. Leinster, they also issued an injury update, which was quite positive. Robbie Henshaw, Jimmy O'Brien, and Rabah Slimani, they have all returned from injury and are available for selection for Leinster's away clash to Cardiff this Friday, the 27th of February at 7 p.m. In terms of the other injuries, there's no further updates on Ryan Bird, Jordan Larmour, Paddy McCarthy, Andrew Porter, Hugo Keenan, and Jack Boyle. Fly half Harry Byrne also returned from Ireland training camp to Leinster this week. As we know, Ireland is on that rest week. They don't play until Friday next week against Wales. And it's a well-deserved rest week after that 42-21 win over England on Saturday. However, one of the players that hasn't returned to Leinster is Sam Prendergast. Leo Cullen was asked about Sam Prendergast. He was asked how he feels Sam will take being essentially dropped from the Ireland squad and coming through those poor performances. Leo Cullen said from a personal perspective he thinks Sam will be fine. Sam is someone who works incredibly hard on his game, all aspects of his game. He's a very young man and I wouldn't have any worries, he said. However, he said in terms of overcoming these rough patches, he said it'd be an amazing experience to go through, as hard as it can be, because it's never smooth sailing. And the sooner we all understand that, maybe slightly aimed at pundits and fans who expect these young players, particularly Sam Prendergast, who's only 23, expecting these players to basically come into the game fully formed. I know there's arguments on whether he was introduced into the international game too soon, but Leo Cullen seems to think that this experience will stand to him, and just from having seen him speak, he seems like quite a confident young man. And again, as Leo pointed out, the diligence he seems to put in to his rugby, I'm sure he will come back from this and he will come back stronger, fingers crossed. He also had some maybe advice or solution for Sam. He just said, get back out there and enjoy it. I think Andy Farrell had the same comments about getting back to just enjoying the game, especially after having those negative experiences, just going back and reigniting that passion for the game and finding that fluidity and that enjoyment of it again. As for Leinster, their last outing was on the 31st of January and that was against Edinburgh. It was a 28-20 home win. Then they played an A game against the Connacht Eagles, winning 63-19 at the Dexcom. That was on the 13th of February. It is a bit of a tricky break. They're coming back to play this game this weekend, and then there'll be another break until the 20th of March, so essentially 3 or 4 weeks. Leo Cullen said the break has helped senior coaches in particular work with some of the younger players. And he said also those experienced guys coming back in, like the likes of Robbie Henshaw and Jimmy coming back into the group. But it's all about trying to bring the group together again. Then on the opposition Cardiff, Leo Cullen said head coach Cornel van Zyl is very good in terms of his intensive detail, particularly around the line out. They have some good variations of what they do. He also said in terms of their defence, you can see some of the energy that they get off the back of their aggressive defence, some of their work on the ground. They also have some very strong poachers over the last couple of years. They're a handful and it'll be a proper test for our guys. Back row, Scott Penny was also up for media. He confirmed that his contract is actually up with Leinster at the end of the season, but he stressed that he was still really enjoying his rugby at Leinster. As for Cardiff, he said their attack is lethal. He's talked about playing them in that pre-season earlier in the year back in August, and he said that they opened us up in attack. They've also got a really good skill set, really good pace, also very physical when they go after a breakdown, he said, which we're very aware of. I think with the group that we have, I think we need to go over and focus on ourselves, getting the physical part of the game right first, and then just going from there, taking it moment by moment. So we'll see come Friday at 7 p.m. There was also a further update from the Ireland camp. It said the Ireland squad would gather for a 2-day camp in Dublin on Wednesday. as their preparation step up for that round 4 clash with Wales in the Six Nations. That's on in Aviva Stadium on Friday the 6th of March. Kickoff is at 8:10 p.m. In terms of injuries, the squad seemed to come through pretty okay. Obviously, James Lowe went off early, apparently with a groin injury, and he'll be continued to be monitored by the medical team. Also, Jack Conan, who was that late withdrawal due to illness, he said he will return to training this week after missing that England game. So hopefully we'll see them at the open training session on Thursday at the Aviva. I think all the tickets have been snapped up for that. So the men's senior squad will take on the under 20 squad at that annual session that's held for fans every year during the Six Nations. And I say a lot of fans, even I'd say a lot of media, will be really excited to see the players from both those squads, especially after the wins by both of them. Ireland under 20s, they won 31-21 on Friday evening as well. A number of players have returned to their provinces ahead of those URC fixtures this weekend. Obviously, Leinster are playing Cardiff. Connacht face Glasgow at home on Saturday at 3 p.m. Munster face Zebre at home at 5:30 p.m. And then Ulster face Ospreys away at 7:45. And then for the players that returned back to their provinces, obviously Harry Byrne, I mentioned earlier, Nathan Doak, Edwin Adogbo, Tom Farrell, Cormac Isajuku, Michael Milne, Dara Murray, Jude Postlethwaite, Cian Prendergast, Tom Stewart and Bryn Ward. And then obviously I have to speak about that England match, or well, that Irish performance. Just wow, I was not expecting that. In my preview, I said there was a hope. Because I knew that squad had it in them. I actually said to another journalist at that Italy game, it's really hard to pinpoint. It was really hard to see where that kind of decline happened, because I don't think we've seen that type of overall comprehensive, emphatic win from Ireland in a long time. But it was really hard to pinpoint what exactly was wrong. Was it an energy thing? I know intent kept mentioned over and over again in those media sessions after the France game, before the Italy game, even for the England game. And certainly the intent was there for all to see. Even in the tunnel beforehand, I think there was a bit of to and froing about England coming out late, and I think that might have G'd up Ireland, but I think they were already at such an emotional level, emotional intensity. I think I mentioned in my preview that the key to it was getting that quick start, not letting England build any momentum. And Ireland, they just came out of the block straight away. They really got that. I know they didn't score their try until 90 minutes in, but they got that early penalty. Even Tyburn going up and robbing that first line out for England. Just looking at my notes, even early on, the fields of Attenroy were ringing out around Twickenham. I think a big thing, again, at the start of my notes, England are keeping the ball alive rather than kicking. I think that was one of the biggest differences. I'll go into like Ireland's defence and Ireland's attack. I think that was one of the key things for England. That was why George Ford kind of grabbed hold of that 10 jersey for England. He was playing that game, those little kind of chip-ins behind, that kind of clever kicking, buying territory. Then England could use that power game, where I think on Saturday, just looking at the match stats, England only kicked 18 times where Ireland kicked 21 times. Just looking at the breakdown of kicks, George Ford only kicked 6 times, Van Portfleet 6 times, even Henry Pollock is down on the top kicks from hand with 1. Marcus Smith only 1 kick. Looking at Ireland in comparison, Jemison Gibbs at Park 12, Jack Crowley 9, James Lowe 4, Jamie Osborne 2 and Craig Casey 2. And it was really clever kicking as well, little probing kicks. I think one of the only bad kicks was, I think Jamie Osborne kicked just straight down to Arundel and England were able to counter. A lot of clever probing kicks from Jemison Gibbs at Park, particularly for Robert Balakoon, Jamie Osborne, who were really good in the air, claiming those aerial collisions that weren't going for them against France. I think that was a big difference as well. In a way, Ireland were playing more like England previously under Bortwick were playing, especially like Robert Balakoon in that kind of style of Tommy Freeman, big winger dominating those aerial battles. Then just looking at the stats, England had more possession, only slightly more, 51% compared to 48%. Again, those kicks, 31 for Ireland, only 18 for England. Offloads, only 5 for England, 10 for Ireland. Penalties conceded, 14 for England, 12 for Ireland, where Jack Crowley was able to capitalise. And looking at turnovers, only 4 for England, 14 for Ireland. Again, that line-out success, I think Ireland lost one line-out. England completely, there was confusion at times about who was even going up. And then the scrum, those issues were still there. Ireland managed to get those 2 free kicks, was quite positive. A lot of those penalties at tie head, Finlay Bealham, which again, in the overall context of the match, it is something to work on. It's something that teams like South Africa are going to bully you on. And also looking at it from a kind of down the line perspective, Jeremy Knockman getting that experience, getting Finlay Bealham back again. He hasn't had many games. He's only coming back from injury for Connacht and he hasn't been playing that much. So I think getting him further up to speed, again, having someone like Tom O'Toole, obviously it seems like he's an out-and-out tie head, but having that option to maybe stand in at loose head, again, coming up to World Cup, rather than put someone in that has absolutely no experience in international rugby, you can call on someone like Tom O'Toole to come on and have that experience. While it wasn't great, I think it can be worked on, and there was a few little positives there in terms of that gaining that experience at that level. Looking at turnovers conceded, England 24 compared to 10 from Ireland. So again, not pleasant reading from an England point of view. England looked really disjointed, especially in defence. You saw poor Genji getting spun like the hotel door of the Hilton. In commentary, they said that England looked like a team of strangers that were kind of thrown together, and it just didn't make sense. It didn't look like the England that we've seen over those 12 consecutive wins that they've been speaking of. It seemed like they were trying to pivot mid-tournament on how they wanted to play, which is really strange. It really seemed the message was run everything, don't kick, keep the ball, where that's kind of an antithesis of how England were playing, especially putting Tommy Freeman from the centre to the wing and not going after those aerial collisions and trying to gain territory by kicking, especially going in at halftime, 7-22 down at home and not having a plan B. But in saying that, Ireland could be accused of that as well. They really struggle coming from behind, struggle with, I say, problem solving on the pitch. But it seemed like England didn't really have any answers to try and get a foothold in the game, even after the second half, maybe when messages could have been given. Looking at the top carriers for England, George Ford, Ben Earl with 17. It's a bit worrying seeing George Ford being the top carrier. It just seems so off from how England have been playing. Also looking at carries, Henry Pollock with 10, he was extraordinarily quiet. There's a few accusations of him not releasing, holding on to the ball in the tackle and the ref not seeing it, but when it came down to it, I don't think it really mattered. Looking at Ireland, top tacklers were Kenan Doris and Tyg Byrne with 17. Defenders beating Stuart McCluskey, of course, with 5. Top meter, Stuart McCluskey. Tommy O'Brien as well coming on 64 metres, coming on for that for James Lowe. Ireland's top carrier was Stuart McCluskey with 15. Gemma Skimson-Park also, who played an absolute stormer, was absolutely everywhere, run the legs off himself with 13. And then looking at Ireland, they almost played that England game style, clever kicks, building up points through penalties, bringing that physicality. They were attacking every breakdown, even like Jemison Gibson-Park was in, trying to poach, delivering really big turnovers. That turnover from Joe McCarthy, Itoje goes up, gets ball off the line out, and Joe McCarthy just steam rolls straight through, turning over the ball, bullying Cowan Dickey off it. England's discipline was also poor. They gave away some poor penalties. Ireland's first score saw them go 3 up with a penalty for offside. Again, George Ford, he did have a few kicks early in the game. One of them went straight to Crowley. And then when England did get penalties, George Ford was missing those kicks to touch. He missed 2. There was 2 or 3 ironic cheers when eventually he did find touch on further penalties further into the game. I know Jack Crowley had that issue last week in the last few minutes of the game, but to do it twice at that level when you're behind is just really poor. Ireland did really well at slowing things down. England had to put multiple players into the ruck. Players like Josh van der Fleer were really in the faces of the England players at ruck time. Anytime England tried to attack, again, Ireland were over the ball, constantly trying to poach, constantly trying to slow it down. Mitchell couldn't get any fast ball at all. Ireland had some really great breaks with Balakoon and Tommy O'Brien running that support line when he came on. It was a really good run from him in that first half, getting into England's 22. Eventually it leads to England infringing a penalty offside against Curry, and that's when James Gibson Park basically taps it quickly, breaks through for Ireland's first try. They go 0-10 ahead. It was James Gibson Park against Hayes, and he managed to dash over. Crowley kicks that conversion. England give away another penalty, but Crowley misses it. And then for Ireland's second try, it's a kick ahead from Jemison Gibson Park. Ireland gain 20 odd metres. They pull it through the hands. They go left to right with McCluskey, who has a great break. Balakoon, he runs a great support line to get back. Quick ball from Jemison Gibson Park to Balakoon, and that's Ireland over for the second. They go 0-15. England's Freddie Stewart is also sent off with a yellow for playing Jemison Gibson Park. Then after that, the restart, there's a great break from Josh van der Fleer. That brings Ireland back down past England's 10-metre line. There's a kick from Crowley for Balakoon. Again, these probing kicks, it doesn't work out this time. Arundel claims the mark. Then the ref goes off. Andrea Piardi, I think he pulled his calf. He had to go off. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. So Steve Borthwick starts ringing the changes. Jamie George comes on. There's a dummy from Balakoon. He puts on the gas. Tommy O'Brien again running that support line really well with him. Then that pass from Balakoon frees Tommy O'Brien to go over for Ireland's third try in the 29th minute. Puts Ireland 22-0. At that point of the game, 31 minutes in, clean breaks for England, 3-9 for Ireland. Then the restart, James Gibson Park, again, another kick for O'Brien. It doesn't work out, but England try and tap it back, but they end up knocking on. It's again, these errors keep creeping in, giving Ireland even more of a foothold, even more confidence. The Ireland scrum is pretty decent, it's locked out. That gets the ball out to Crowley, tries a crossfield kick. Again, another kick, something that England could have been doing, but it seemed to refuse to. Again, England claim this, but it leads eventually to another England knock-on. Then there's a decent Ireland scrum, but England turn over the ball and they start to attack. But it's pressure from Jemison Gibson Park again, who seem to be everywhere, and Tommy O'Brien. They track back really quickly and they put pressure on George Ford. However, there's a great hand from Stuart McCluskey, who puts a big mid in and hooks it back to Tommy O'Brien. Ireland again clear their lines. Clever kicking, not trying to play from inside their half. There's a penalty against Ireland, against Doris. George Ford, he gets his kick. There's an ironic cheer. Then England, they lose the line out, but it's called back as there was contact in the air. Again, another ironic cheer when George Ford gets that kick to touch. England's line out is okay this time. They get it down. Instead of trying to do that rolling maul, which actually seemed quite effective at certain points in the second half, they just do a trick play with Jamie George down the touchline. But there's an absolutely brilliant turnover from Tygburn right on Ireland's line to send England back again. Now it's turn for Ireland's line out to be overcooked. There's some good tackling from Gary Ringrose. He absolutely smashed Van Poorfleet. And then just 20 seconds before half time, Borthwick swaps out Freddie Stewart with Marcus Smith, which seems a bit of a weird tactical call with only 20 seconds. You think you would have waited maybe till half time to make that change, but it seems to be a message to the players to basically pull your finger out, it seems. However, maybe the tactical substitution did work. England get a scrum free kick, England attack. They get multiple advantages with Ireland infringing, and then Dingwall goes over and scores in the 41st minute. And then we're into half time. Again, another rare kick from Van Poorfleet. Again, the second half is more the same. Ireland going up for some great claims. Jamie Osborne has a great claim after there's some confusion with George Ford and Hayes on who's going to claim that ball. Doris has another line break, and that brings Ireland into England's 22. Then Ireland get really close to England's line, but there's a yellow card infringement from Henry Pollock for not releasing. That's right on the try line. Ireland tap and go. You can see the frustration really setting in around this time for England because Maro Itoje, he's really arguing with the ref over an incident that happened earlier, a clear out from Tyke Furlong on Curry. The ref says it's just a rugby incident. To me, it looked like a rugby incident as well, a rugby collision. There was arguments that it was to the face. However, the ref is having none of it. So it goes back for that Ireland penalty from that infringement from Pollock to tap and go. Furlong, McCluskey, and somehow Dan Sheehan, as he does, finds a hole and goes over for Ireland's fourth and the bonus point try, leads Ireland to be 29-7 up. After that, there's restart, Ireland claim, but England concede another penalty and they're actually sent back 10 metres due to descent. You can really see the frustration eat into England. Ireland have a bit of attack. England, again, committing more people to the ruck, trying to bring down Bourne, Van der Fleer, etc. The attack is pretty static, and then there's a forward pass from Jeremy Loughman who halts it, and there's a great bit of footage of Jack Crowley having a word with him on that, being that kind of bulgy, mouthy fly half that we all like to see. Bealham and Tom O'Toole are then introduced 46 minutes in. There's a scrum for England, but Ireland are penalised at tight head when the scrum folds inwards. Again, another ironic cheer when George Ford kicks to touch. In England line out and they have advantage for landing on the lifter. England then attack, but another great tackle from Ringrose. He drives England into touch, also with pressure from Osborne. Then 49 minutes in, Timney comes on for Van der Fleer. I think he had a brilliant game, both him and Josh. Then there's a croc roll on Jamison Gibson Park by Jamie George. Right on Ireland's line, there's Ireland penalty. So Crowley is able to clear Ireland's line. He kicks to the 10-metre line. Just a testament to Ireland's physicality. Ollie Lawrence was brought in at centre for his physicality. And McCluskey, he sends him into the turf with a huge tackle. There's a penalty for England. Bealham, he plays the ball offside after a kick from Freeman. There's a bit of attacking from England. Tommy Freeman makes a break down the right-hand side of the pitch, but McCluskey and Balakoon both hold him out. However, an advantage soon after leads to a try for England. Freeman put Lawrence in for a try. That was on the 53rd minute, and Jamie Osborne was shown a yellow card. The score was now 29-14. 54 minutes into Itoje's 100 cap for England, saw him go off. Also, Ringrose went off, Frawley was on. England tried to attack from inside their own 22, keeping the ball in hand. Ball was really slow. A lot of that work from Ireland, really slowing down the ball. There's a lovely little intercept from Nick Timney, who was able to grab the ball. Then there's hands on the ground from England. Penalty to Ireland. They decide to rack up the scores, go for the posts. That brings them to 32-14. 59 minutes in, there's a great choke tackle from Finlay Bealham and Tyke Byrne. They really target forward, hold them up, and it's scrum Ireland. However, after that great work from Bealham, he gives away a penalty in the scrum. England again, fine touchline. It was okay. England attack. During this passage, it just shows the bravery of Gibson Park. He puts in a massive tackle on Chesham. England get into Ireland's 22 and the ball goes out to Freeman on the right wing, but O'Brien and Balakoon combine to bring him into touch in a try-saving effort. Then at 62 minutes in, Prendergast comes on for McCarthy. He wins that line out. And then there was a brilliant bit of scrum halfing from Jamison Gibson Park. Just held on, highlighting to the ref, those arms kind of flating about as scrum halves do, and essentially waited for England to infringe, and they did. Penalty Ireland for playing the 9. England being indisciplined, Ireland pouncing on it, clearing their lines. Then Osborne comes back on, but Ireland are 3-0 up for that passage of play that he's been off, which just shows how dominant Ireland were. Again, another great kick chase from James Gibbs Park. Osborne claims. Then 65 minutes in, what I have down in my notes as a Tyke Byrne special, he just gets in over that ball, does what he does. Ireland have another kick for the posts, leads them 35-14. That's 65 minutes in. Then a few more penalties for England. 68 minutes. England are offside. Advantage Ireland. Ireland nearly get over, but they're short. They get the ball out wide to Frawley. He actually does well to hold on after being pretty isolated. They get the ball through the hands. There's a great carry from Timney. I thought he played really well when he came on. And then Crowley passed to Osborne, who just sailed through. There was nothing stopping him. And that was for Ireland's 5th try, putting them 42-14 up. Then 71 minutes in, Jamison Gibson Park goes off after an absolutely brilliant barnstorming performance. But nothing slows down for Ireland. Caelan Doherty gets another great turnover in the 71st minute. Then we get to one of the key moments of the game. I don't think you could have missed this moment if you're on any form of social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram. The video of Stuart McCluskey chasing down Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith, great interception by him. He's absolutely pacing it down the pitch. McCluskey comes back from near centre of the pitch on Ireland's 10-metre line. He makes it down to England's 10-metre line. He gasses Jamie Osborne even, and he drags Smith into touch, chalking off probably what would have been a near certain try. And that was 73 minutes into the game for Stuart McCluskey, who's been Ireland's top carrier. The level of physicality brought to the game, the amount of tackles that he brought to the game, to be able to have that energy in him at 33 is amazing. In the last few minutes of the game, Ireland just keep putting pressure on, causing England to knock on. However, a pretty silly penalty from Tommy O'Brien leads to a try for England. Advantage England. Underhill eventually gets over the line 75 minutes in, bringing the scoreline to 42-21. Only a few minutes to go. Ireland keep that pressure on. Frawley going up. He doesn't win the ball, but it leads to another turnover. Cian Prendergast, another good cameo from him, coming onto the bench for Jack Conan, who dropped out late due to illness. Clearance from Casey, kicking, clearing their lines, not playing from inside their half. Then in the 78th minute, there's a scrum for England. They get a penalty from that. Again, the tied head, Finlay beat them. It's the last roll of the dice for England. They actually decide to kick in the last few minutes of the game. Marcus Smith, chip and chase. He gets checked though, and there's a penalty. However, they're back for that penalty into England's half. They win that line out okay. It's about 8 metres out from Ireland's 10-metre line. But in that attack, the ball is lost forward by England, and it's all over at Twickenham. So the positives, I think, just the utter dominance, really matching the physicality of England. As Andy Farrell said, going out just to achieve parity wasn't enough, and they really didn't. The way they dominated them, causing a lot of knock-ons in the tackle, constantly that threat of poaching even from players like Jamison Gibson Park, really slowing down England's ball, having them to have to commit multiple people, creating that space for Ireland to attack. Also, the little things that I love, like the turnovers from Caelan Doris, Tadhg, that, as I said, the Tadhg special, absolutely joy to see. We haven't seen a lot of that from him in a while. Like, he seemed pretty quiet, but that was just him back to his imperious best. And then the kicking again, 31-18. I was watching Egg Chasers. He said that he believed England should kick more. I completely agree. It just looked like they went out with a plan A and didn't have a plan B at all. Ellis Genge actually came out and apologised for the display. That's 2 losses on the bounce for them, 1 at home. They hadn't lost at home since 2024 against South Africa. So that's going to be really hurting them. I just think, again, what was said of Ireland for the past 2 weeks, that lack of intent was there for England. Like, when you have Henry Pollock on the list of top kickers, no offence to him, he probably is a decent kicker. He probably has a great skill set, but to have him down for top kicks is a bit worrying. Another worry for England fans, the penalty count, the cards again. It must have felt like Groundhog Day for them after last week, those 2 yellow cards. Also, some of the penalties were quite silly, like playing the 9, playing Gibson Park right in front of the ref. Again, frustration. Also, descent, having to go back 10 minutes. It just felt like England were just frustrated completely, and Ireland just made it look easy. Again, as I said, winning those aerial battles that they haven't been winning. They look great in the air. Jamie Osborne and Balakoon just look unreal at the moment. Of course, Jack Crowley, to be able to come in, essentially having been put on the back burner and put on for performance like that. Not to take away from Sam Prendergast. I know that a lot of people will be saying, oh, Ireland should have been playing him all along or whatever. But I don't think it was just Jack Gurley. I do think he had a brilliant game, not to take away from him. I just think it was an all-round improvement from nearly every player on that pitch. Maybe it did work, Andy Farrell benching some of his trusted players like Jemison, Gibson Park, Josh van der Veer being left out of that Italy game. Also, I think maybe there would have been a sense of refreshment if you think of those Lions players. It's a long season. I know Tommy Freeman came out about being feeling tired and being drained after that tour. So I think maybe some of it could have been that benching kind of giving them essentially a kick, but also I think maybe a sense of freshness, a bit of headspace to get themselves right for this performance. So they'd love to go out and be playing next week, but we have another nearly 2 weeks to wait for the next match. But needless to say, I really enjoyed it, especially when you're not expecting it. It was really great. And getting to rewatch it, it actually took me the bones of not continuously, but over 2 days having to rewatch it because I kept pausing. There's so many good things I wanted to make notes of. I think I ended up having 14 pages of notes. I usually maybe have like 5 or 6 for an entire match, but there was many good things. Obviously, a few things to improve on the scrum, but the passing seems much more better. It doesn't seem like they're forcing it anymore. It almost looked like England were playing like Ireland have been over the last 2 weeks. The attack as well, be able to go over to England and score 5 tries. It seems to be taken really nice. I'm not going to get carried away. It's just one performance, but I think it's great to see that kind of performance from these players and a bit of a retort from maybe the coverage from fans, from the media as well, to show that they're still there, that they can still do it. They're still one of the best teams in the world. They're up to 3 in the world rankings. I know that probably doesn't really feature in. It's more of a bragging right than maybe something that actually features into their thinking, maybe only when it comes around for seeding for the World Cup and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the Ireland team really need this. I think the coaching team really needed this, and just well done. There's so many people that go into that win, backroom staff. So I hope they had an enjoyable weekend, the whole team. That was just kind of me ranting on the things that I liked. I'll also be back hopefully with coverage from that open training session. Also coverage and preview of all the provinces fixtures in the URC this weekend. If there's anything else you would like me to cover, please let me know. Was this one of the best Ireland performances in the Six Nations? What has been some of your favourite performances from Ireland in the Six Nations down the years? I know that France game back in 2023 really sticks out for me. What other games really stick out? Or will we just keep talking about this win for a little longer? As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your comments. You're always really supportive, really helpful. If you have anything that you want me to cover, please drop a comment below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.